something will have to exist and not exist at the same time. Right? So like your mother giving birth to herself, is that something which is possible? No, because then that would mean that she has to exist and not exist at the same time. In the same way, right, the ball giving rise to itself is impossible because it's a contradiction in terms. It can't exist and not exist at the same time.
I've studied a lot
Yes.
of Eastern philosophy,
Right.
and they offer another explanation for this, which is also something which is very interesting. Is I don't know the word in English, but there's this great myth of, say, the Egyptian religions, where the ultimate God, in a sense, how the universe was created was by self-impregnation, and that's usually a symbolically female God. So I'm not sure where you are coming from. I'm just trying to understand all of these stories. You know.
Yeah, no. Those things are all there. It's not even an Eastern tradition. I mean, what do you call it? Gilgamesh and all.
Right. So the Eastern thing,
the Egyptian thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is I can't remember the name of the god, but I don't.
Me neither.
Yeah. Is it Ra? Is it Ra? Is it not? But it's one of those gods. I'm not an Egyptian, ancient Egyptian specialist. Impregnates the other one, and therefore you had the heaven and the earth. But there you still had the coexistence of two things at the same time.
Yeah.
Even in that myth. The point is, on logical principles, it's not possible to have something that exists and doesn't exist at the same time. You see what I mean? So if I say I exist but I don't exist, are you here? Or if I say, look, I'm going to send you a text message, all right? Bet. Or I'm going to tell you something. And you say, what's that, Mohammed? What are you going to tell me? I'm going to tell you, look, I'm not here. What do you say about that?
Objectively speaking, you are here.
Oh, right. So it's a contradiction in terms. You can't exist and not exist at the same time, right? We accept.
Yeah.
So that, now we have the disjunction, and we took out one option, which is that the ball can't create itself. Now we go to the other two options. Either the ball was there eternally, or it was created by some other thing.
Yes.
In either event, the question would be, does the ball depend upon something or not? Because both of those options are logically valid options. Either the ball was always there, or the ball was put into place by something else. But in either event, the ball would have to be either dependent upon itself or dependent upon something else for its continued existence. If you say that that ball is dependent upon something else because of its continued existence, then the question is, what is that other thing?
Well, so what you see a lot in Abrahamic religions is when the notion of the creation of the universe is essentially a sort of the universe conceptualized as God being some sort of mechanic or engineer. Like he created the universe. As soon as you create something, it's essentially an assembly of parts. Right. So something from the outside that puts it together. Okay. What I find very interesting in Eastern philosophy, say Taoism, which is what the Chinese people believe in. That's the yin yang symbol, right? They see the universe and the creation of the universe not necessarily as something that has been created, but something which grows. And so there's this dichotomy that you can make them between an organic take on the universe and a mechanic take on the universe. And so something that is constructed or something that grows of itself. And so a counter argument to what you're saying is, could be, I'm not saying it is, because I don't know, right? Is that the universe is actually maybe closer resembled by the symbology of, say a flower. It's like you have a little seed. And like how is the seed going to do whatever? But it has the potential to rise.
So this is interesting because it's quite similar to what Richard Dawkins, although his book is not really.
I'm not a big fan of Dawkins.
I'm not a big fan of it. Look, I mean, of his book as well, it's got 300 pages or something. If you look at actually the arguments, it's probably about 20 or 30 pages, yeah? The arguments against God's existence. But one of the things that he says is that the universe, literally, he uses the term has bylaws. So the laws of the universe could be the bylaws a conglomerate of universes, which are the multiverse, right? And that there are bigger universes. And what he says is, and where it connects with what you're saying, is that he says that this universe or universes which survive, and he uses biological terminology here, evolutionary terminology. He says universes which survive are ultimately the ones which we get to know about and so on. So in other words, he anthropomorphizes the universe, right? Or you could say actually he personifies the universe in a sense, right? He personifies the universe in the sense that he gives it the characteristics of living things. So if the universe now, in order to be understood by people, has to be personified, that's a question. Why do we have to personify the universe? Now, if you think about it, number one, on naturalism, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that non-living things, yes, have an ability to evolve, or that they have that kind of flower example that you gave, which, by the way, a flower is a living thing, right? So going back to biology, it has no propensity to develop in and of itself or so on. But what's more interesting is that the naturalist has resorted, right, to using attributes of human being in order to make sense of the universe. And what strikes me about that is that those attributes of human being are also coextensive with the attributes of the Abrahamic God. For instance, the ability to grow something, the ability to develop something, the maintainer, the sustainer, and so on. So in other words, what the naturalist has to do is, in the case of Dawkins, or what the Eastern traditionists have to do, is that they have to give the universe the attributes of the God of Abraham, which obviously in this case is something that they kind of counter their theory on. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but I honestly do not believe you can reduce say Taoism down to naturalism.
No, Taoism, I'm not saying that's naturalism. I was talking about Dawkins. What I'm saying about that is that the universe is personified. It's given attributes which, from an Abrahamic religion perspective, belong to the attributes of God. Now, those attributes are seen as necessary in both Abrahamic religions and on Taoism, say, or Eastern traditions, in order for the universe to be explained.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
so
that's the core essence of, of making things understandable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now we have to ask the question: why is it, in fact, that we have to refer to such attributes? Right. So why do we have to refer to the maintenance of the universe? Why do we have to explain the universe in conjunction with maintenance, sustenance, development, and so on? And how can we do so without ascribing the ability of the universe to do those things with an entity that's transcendent or extraneous to that universe, which is able to endow the universe with such ability to be maintained and sustained and so on? So in other words, what is it about these attributes of maintaining and sustenance and development which are particularly important, right, in understanding the cosmos? I would answer by saying that you cannot understand the cosmos unless you understood that the universe itself, that the universe itself is being developed or sustained or maintained or any of those things, or has laws, for instance, right?
Yeah.
But the question is, what is the most convincing explanation to why the universe has those attributes, either imposed upon it through being supervened on it,
or it was inherent in it as
in
potential.
It. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's my question.
The ball thing.
Yeah. They're making you think a little bit.
Sorry?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm following you. Yeah, sure.
Right. So you've got the thesis is this. The Abrahamic thesis, if you like, with the exception of Christianity, because obviously triune God and Trinitarianism and all that stuff. The thesis is that the universe was caused by a simple agent. The universe was caused by a simple agent. That it wasn't a modicum or a plethora or a multiplicity of agents, but it was just one cause.
Oh, hey, but that's not That's why I didn't get the connotation with Dawkins. Like the thing I said about Eastern philosophy, I didn't see the connection with Dawkins. And so when it comes to Dawkins and multiverses and all that stuff, I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical. I believe that not only the idea of a multiverse is a plausible idea scientifically speaking, but I think that most of the atheistic types that are die-hard convinced that there's no creator or whatever.
Yes. So to bring this back, the question is, do you accept the premise that every originated thing has an originator?
It's either from an originator or it has the potential from within itself. Yeah.
Right, so every originated thing, by definition, because it's been originated, must have an originator.
Yeah.
Okay. The universe is an originated thing. Right. Therefore, the universe has an originator.
Yeah.
Right. Now, let's go back to our qualities of the universe. You talk about maintaining, sustaining, development, all that stuff. Is it fair to say that the qualities of that originator could be summarized as at least the ability to sustain, maintain, to put laws in place and so on for the universe?
I'm skeptical of laws, really.
Okay.
I think that laws...
Let's take the laws out.
Laws, in a sense, are sort of...
But the ability to maintain, sustain the universe.
What do you mean by that? You think that there's
so with the non-existence of the originator, the originated would not exist.
Yeah.
Yes?
One more time, sorry.
If the originator doesn't exist, then the originated can't exist.
I'm not sure.
Well, if everything, go back to what we said, everything that has an originator, that is originated, has an originator. The universe has an originator, therefore the universe is originated, therefore the universe is an originator, right?
Yeah.
So if the originator isn't there, then the originated cannot be there.
But, so, like, where I feel you are coming from is from a very Abrahamic perspective. And so, say I would have been Chinese or Japanese and grew up from that culture, I'd have a completely different answer. I do feel I have a completely different answer because I've studied these cultures. But right now, I feel so interested by all these situations and stories and explanations that are all there, that in a sense, I understand where both parties, in a sense, if I...
But what I'm saying to you is that, despite that being the case, because that could be the genetic fallacy, right? Depending on where the thing comes from, it might be right or wrong.
Yeah, well, all right. But so let me give you the entire elaborate story of the... what the question boils down to is, how can something come from nothing?
Can something come from nothing?
Exactly. And so, what's funny, what I find fascinating about Eastern countries and Eastern religion is that they have a completely different take on emptiness and space. Like if you go to Japan, like their rooms, they're often not so bulky. There's not much stuff. Everything you can just fold up so you can like create space. They have a very different take on nothingness.
Okay.
Buddhism, which also I find very interesting, very fascinating. Study that as well. A lot of doctrines are on emptiness, and I actually do feel you can like make connotations with that within Abrahamic religions, where they say like you have to empty your heart and all that stuff before you can like get filled up by the grace of God or whatever. So the Eastern religion take of the originating of the universe actually delves into the...
when you say Eastern, what are you talking about? Buddhism? Which
specifically, I've been mainly interested in Zen Buddhism, which is like, we could reduce it down to Buddhism.
Okay.
And so they have a different take on nothingness. And so I feel that in the West there's this sort of bias we have, which I also that sort of that things are more important, like that things are more important than not having stuff, in a sense. You know, that's why I also feel we are very materialistic and all that stuff. And so we have also this big bias, which I see in the scientific community, is that everything that's real to us has to be measured. Like, as soon as you can measure it, it's real. And then a question I like to say, ask Dawkins is like, all right, you go to sleep, you dream you're being on that big boat, is that real, that experience you'll have?
Right.
And he'll wake up and he'll say, no, I'm going to be objective about it, and I had this dream and it was just all subjective experience.
Right.
What I just experienced is totally subjective and it was not real. And I would say to him, right, but then what was the experience you had? Because clearly you can remember what you have had.
Right.
So basically you have this view of reality,
where
as soon as I introduce even the concept of dreams,
Yes.
you don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
And so I personally feel that we need sort of an expansion of what we take in to be, what we might consider to be real or not,
Right.
in order to sort of get more sense of stuff.
I agree with you, right? I totally agree with that point. So just to summarize what you're saying, is that on naturalism, the first person subjective experience, especially of things like dreams and so on, cannot really be explained.
Science doesn't understand subjective experience.
Yes.
It can't deal with it. That's
can't deal with it,
It can't measure it, so it tries to shove it under the carpet.
Yes, I totally agree with you there, right? Now, going back to what I was saying, there's a point of agreement. The point you were making about the Eastern traditions, Zen Buddhism and so on, and space.
Yeah.
Because this was the broader question of, can something come from nothing?
Right.
So, from my reading, I mean, I've tried to look at the Eastern traditions myself to see where explicitly there is mention of what we call like the religion, the philosophy of religion. In the philosophy of religion, things like the creation of the universe and so on. And there is mention, of course, of, for example, the Vedas and other books of how the universe came into being, right? But the question of an explicit philosophical inquiry onto whether there can be a creation from nothing wasn't really dealt with in the same way, for example, as the Hellenistic Greeks dealt with it. So when I looked into the works of, for example, Aristotle and Plato, obviously he wrote books called The Physics and the Metaphysics, where he deals specifically with these kinds of things. Aristotle, he wrote 2 books on these kind of things. The Metaphysics, he actually deals specifically with the question of a vacuum. And his elaboration on that topic is quite interesting because it feeds its way all the way through to Leibniz and the discussion that he had with Newton about space being relative or not being relative. So it kind of feeds itself into a physics discourse. But his idea, Aristotle's idea, was that it's not possible for there to be an empty vacuum. There's no such thing as a vacuum, a nothing space. Now, this idea kind of, throughout the medieval period, I would say with a large degree, and I'm obviously here talking about more the Middle Eastern traditions and the Christian and Jewish traditions. Obviously that's where my area is more, where I'm more interested. In those traditions, the logical disjuncture that we talked about in the beginning of how the universe came into existence, it never included nothing created nothing. It was not respected by those individuals. Even up until Leibniz, it was not respected. I could say even until this day, it's not respected. I mean, the only people who really postulate it, people like this guy Krauss and other people, are those individuals who really are using semantical deception in order to try and put forward a theory which talks about black holes, which themselves are governed by laws of physics and can't be said to be emptiness or nothingness, in the sense that it's the absence of something, because that's the definition of nothing.
Exactly. The reason why I brought up dreams, because I don't feel that I tied it back to the ultimate creation question that we were dealing with. Like we had an agreement about whether dreams are real and this.
Yes.
Exactly. And so I remembered now why I brought it up, and I haven't fully explained that. And so my estimation is that we probably have a different take on the meaning of nothing. And so what I feel happens in Abrahamic culture or Abrahamic religion, and Now, I'm not going to call it Western culture. But I feel there. I feel that the word nothing is very interesting. So imagine Dawkins dreaming, and you confronting him the next morning, like, what did you experience?
Yes.
Because he can't deal with subjective experience as a scientist.
Right.
He'll shove it under the carpet,
Right.
and he'll say, "Oh, that's nothing." And then I'll come back to him and
Right.
say, "No, you experienced something."
I see your point. Yes, yes.
You did experience
Yes,
something.
yes.
And so then what was it? And I
Yes.
said, "No, it's nothing."
Yes.
And so what I would like to put forward then is that
Yes.
the way we use the word nothing
Yes.
often can be translated to,
Yes.
"No, it's unimportant."
Right.
And so,
yes,
I see Abrahamic religion
Yes.
as a sort of filter where we have a very rigid conceptualization of what's real and what's not, and everything that's pushed that's outside of this bracket, we just don't look,
Right.
even though we do know that it's part of the human experience.
With respect,
So-
there would be one objection I have with that, right?
Could I finish the story? Both? Right. So, in the Eastern religion, they believe in this duality of the yin yang, basically. Male and female, etc.
Right.
And so, their take on stuff is that in order for there to be something, there has to be nothing. And so, I'm not articulate enough to explain
you are articulate.
all the philosophical underpinnings,
No,
but
I get what you mean.
they're like Eastern philosophers. They make a very strong case for this, and it's very fascinating to me. Where they say it's not so much how did something arise out of nothing,
Okay.
but something and nothing arise mutually. Where did that come from? They believe
Something and nothing.
Yes, and so my definition of nothing would be that all things considered, like in the same way that if you look at an empty room, and because I said we use the word nothing strange, and I think that we can often translate it to it's unimportant, or maybe even more precisely that which we do not acknowledge to be part of reality, in a sense. It's like if you bring someone to an empty room, it's like, what's in this room? Well, nothing. And I could say that,
Okay,
no,
explain.
there's
All right.
empty space.
Now let me explain to you why I think there might be a confusion, right? You said that something and nothing have according to the Eastern traditions. By the way, we should kind of disentangle the Eastern traditions, because Sikhism is an Eastern tradition. And by the way, it's quite monotheistic.
What's
Sikhism? Sikhism is
that a branch of
it's
Hinduism, or is that?
No. It's a standalone religion.
Right, I don't know.
Yeah. So
Like I remember the name.
and
but
they
I don't
believe
know
that the universe began with Ik, with this this ex nihilo creation from God and all that.
Yeah.
So that's an Eastern tradition. And by the way, you could even interpret the Hindu traditions